Grammar, just the word makes most people's hearts sink. We feel confused before we've even started. But grammar doesn't have to be gruesome, and lucky for us, due to national changes, it's very much back on schools' agendas. For your child to reach the expected or exceeding standards by the end of Year 2, they need to have a good grasp of grammar. That's how sentences should be structured and which word classes the different words in this sentence fall into. As with other things we have covered, schools do not expect you to teach this at home, but some knowledge will enable you to support your child when working with them at home. So, time to take a deep breath. Here we go. A noun. A word used to represent a person, place, or thing. A noun is a physical object, something which can be seen, held, touched, visited. So in this sentence, I like to play on the swing. The swing is the noun. It can be touched, climbed on, and swung on. You can have more than one noun in a sentence. I went to the shop and bought some apples and pears. In this sentence we have 3 nouns: shop, apples, and pears. All of these things are something you can see, hold, touch, and visit. A proper noun. A proper noun is the name given to someone or something. Most commonly, this is the name of a person or place. Sarah, Peter, London are all proper nouns, and therefore, when they're written, we use capital letters. If a name contains 2 words, for example, Sarah Smith or New York, both words begin with capitals. We often explain this as people and places are important, they therefore deserve a capital letter. Pronoun. A word which is used in place of a noun. She went to the park. She is the pronoun. She is a girl, woman, or we could have used her name. In this sentence, rather than using any of those nouns, we have used the pronoun she as a shorthand to replace these other nouns. Other examples are I, he, and they for people, and it, this, or that for objects. A verb. A word which describes an action, state, or occurrence within a sentence. I fell off the swing. So in this sentence, fell is the verb and swing is the noun. It can be helpful to think of this another way if you're unsure whether a word is a verb or not. Is it a physical, mental, or being verb? What do we mean by a physical verb? Is it something which you do, a movement you make? I ate pizza, we called my mum, everyone went together and played in the park. Ate, called, went, played are all physical actions which people do. Then there are thinking verbs. I felt embarrassed when I fell over. I sat quietly and thought about things. His mum wasn't sure whether to believe him. In these sentences, embarrassed, thought, and believe are all thinking verbs. They may not be something we see, but they're something which you do inside, so they remain a verb. Then there's the final type of verb, and perhaps the trickiest, the being verb. Most of us will remember being taught that verbs are doing words. Most of the time, this rule works, but it's worth remembering that verbs can also be being words. If you were to take a sentence such as I am a fireman, am would be the verb, as this is a state of being. She is being a firewoman. By being, so is doing. We are children. Are would be the verb. They are doing it. Even if it isn't a conscious thing, they're being. Next we have adjectives. An adjective, a word which gives more information about the noun in a sentence. Most of us will know adjectives as describing words, and this is a good way to think about it. They give us more information about the noun in a sentence. They are often colours, textures, lengths. For example, we went on the long red slide and then played on the wooden climbing frame. The adjectives in this sentence are long, red, and wooden. If there is more than one verb, this becomes a list of verbs, and the children are taught to separate these using a comma. So in this sentence we have slide and climbing frame as our nouns. Touching, holding, and seeing, remember, they're nouns. The verbs are went, the past tense of go, so it's a doing word, and played, whilst the adjectives are long, red and wooden. This leads us on to adverbs. An adverb, a word or phrase which modifies the meaning of a verb, giving us more information about how it's done. Sounds worse than it is. Let's have a look at an example. She walked slowly down the street on a Sunday morning. The word slowly tells us how she walked being the verb in the past tense. We can also have adverbial phrases, which are a group of two or more words which give us more information. For example, she walked as slowly as she could down the street. The phrase as slowly as she could is an adverbial phrase. It gives us even more information about how she moved, walked being the verb in the past tense in this sentence. Connective. A connective is a word which connects the different parts of a sentence. These are words which we use to extend sentences. And, when, because, so, after, next, then are all common examples. Peter tried to be calm because he knew it was almost his turn. So in this sentence, because is the connecting word between the two phrases. By adding a connective, we're giving more information to the reader. This is something which your child's teacher will be encouraging them to do as they write, to build a picture for the reader by using carefully chosen adjectives, adverbials, and a variety of connectives. So if we look at the sentence again, Peter is the proper noun, tried, calm, and knew are the verbs, his is a pronoun, and because is a connective. Now we've covered the word classes, we'll quickly look at the different kinds of sentences you may have. We have statements, exclamations, commands, and questions. A statement. A sentence which tells you something or states it. There are 3 kinds of biscuits to choose from in the biscuit tin. Exclamations. A sentence which begins with what or how and ends with an exclamation mark. What a quick car! In this sentence, the car is being quick. These tend to be short sentences which are used in writing to create an effect. Commands. A sentence which tells you to do something. As the name command suggests, these are sentences which tell you to do or not to do something. Do not walk on the grass. Please get me a glass of milk. Even if they're polite and saying please, it's still a command. Questions. A sentence where you're being asked something. Please can I have a glass of milk? So if you change the previous sentence slightly, it becomes a question rather than a command. The introduction of can I and the question mark makes it a question rather than a command. The final thing to think about is tenses, the time in which something is happening, in the present, past or future. This is something which children who are able to construct a sentence can sometimes still struggle with and will slip from one tense to another in their speech and writing. The present tense, something which is happening now. I am walking to the park. We are driving to the shops. He is going to the doctor's because he has a temperature. We often use the present tense in daily speech, using words such as am, are and is. The past tense, something which has already happened, something which is in the past. Much of the narrative we read in books and the writing we will ask the children to do will be in the past tense, as they're reading about or describing events which have already happened for the characters in the story. They packed their bags, unsure of exactly what they would need. Together they checked that the house was tidy and everything was locked. They did not know how long they would be. The horn of the car beeped, and they knew their adventure was about to begin. This is written in the past tense. Adding the suffix ed to verbs is one of the strategies your child's teacher will be teaching them. But there are many other smaller exceptions and rules within the English language. For this reason, it's very important they are able to confidently speak in the past tense, using the correct phrasing. For example, I went to the shops rather than I goed to the shops. Finally, we have the future tense. We will sit down together and have a cup of tea. This is talking about events which are going to happen. So you typically find words like will, when occurring in these sentences. Again, it's helpful if the children are confident speaking in this tense. Broadly speaking, as with other areas, one of the biggest things you can do every day to help your child become a confident reader and writer is to speak to them, gently correcting grammatical errors and encouraging them to extend their sentences and explore the meaning of new words. There's an old saying in teaching: if a child cannot say a sentence, they won't be able to write it. This is why so much time is spent on orally rehearsing writing during class teaching throughout the school, sharing a wide range of quality books which will show them a variety of sentence structures and vocabulary to draw on and use themselves as they begin to read and write independently will really help your child. Be adventurous. Young children are often more capable than we think they are.